This is a squad of fearless women warriors, unshaken by heaven or earth, chosen from childhood and subjected to brutal training. They have been molded to obey every command without hesitation. They kill without regard for age or innocence, and they even sell their own bodies if that is what the mission demands. These are the Black Widows, whose name alone strikes terror across the world. Yet behind their stunning beauty, one cannot help but wonder if they are truly as ruthless and cold-blooded as the legends suggest. In 1995, in the state of Ohio, little Natasha lived a warm and happy life with her family, just like any other child. By the edge of the forest, she and her younger sister Yelena played together until the girl slipped and scraped her knee. Their mother, Melina, came to comfort her, reminding her that pain only makes one stronger. Those words would become the driving force in Natasha's life for years to come. Yet their happiness did not last long. One evening, their father Alex returned home with a look of unease, urging the entire family to pack quickly, for they had to leave that very night. The mother and her two daughters boarded a plane, ready to take off down the runway, when agents from the organization suddenly arrived in pursuit. Alex drew his gun and fired, sending a vehicle crashing, then leapt onto the wing of the plane. The agents gave chase at full speed, bullets flying, and Melina was struck. In the chaos, young Natasha scrambled into the cockpit and took her mother's place at the controls. Outside, Alex managed to blow out the tire of one of the cars, sending it careening into another before flipping over. At last, Natasha lifted the plane into the air and carried her family to Cuba. There, Melina was rushed into emergency care, while Alex met with Jacob to hand over a secret tape. Frightened by the soldiers surrounding them, little Yelena ran back toward her father.
Yelena! Daddy! Get away from her! Don't touch her!
You're gonna need to hand me that gun.
You can't.
In the very next moment, however, both girls were injected with tranquilizers and taken away. Not long after, the two sisters, along with many other young girls, were forced into the infamous Red Room, place where only the strongest were allowed to survive. There, they were brainwashed and subjected to brutal training, even sterilized, all to be molded into the world's most elite spies, known as the Black Widows. Returning to the present, after the civil war within the Avengers, Natasha found herself hunted relentlessly by government forces for helping Captain America escape. She phoned them once, warning them not to interfere with her again, before quickly slipping away. Meanwhile, in Madrid, her younger sister Yelena, still serving as a Black Widow, was on the hunt for a defector named Oksana. She descended by rope, and only then did Yelena realize she had been under mind control all along. Overcome with regret for killing her comrade, she listened as Oksana handed her the antidote and begged her to save the others before closing her eyes for the last time. Yelena took the vial, activated her tracker, and slipped away, unaware that another Black Widow had witnessed everything. To hunt down the traitor. Meanwhile, Natasha had made her way to Norway, seeking refuge and a moment of rest. There, her trusted ally had forged 20 different passports under new identities for her, along with a pile of old parcels waiting to be claimed. Believing it was nothing of importance, Natasha carelessly tossed the parcel into the trunk of her car. That night, she drove into town to pick up a few personal items. The attacker was none other than the mercenary Taskmaster. Mistaking him for an American operative, Natasha drew her gun and opened fire.
You're not here for me.
Climbing back ashore, Natasha finally pulled out the true contents, a photo of herself and her sister as children. The very next morning, she set out to find Yelena, but their reunion was anything but tender. Both women aimed their guns at each other, and after a fierce brawl, Yelena drew a knife, ready to kill her sister. Natasha grabbed whatever she could to fend her off, and the two fought until their weapons clattered to the floor. In desperation, they seized the curtains and strangled each other, but the lack of air forced them to break apart, gasping, and call a truce for the moment. moment, Natasha asked her sister about the mysterious red vials, and Yelena explained that they were an antidote designed to break free from mind control. Because Natasha had close ties to the Avengers and elite operatives, Yelena hoped she could study the formula and find a way to help the others. Natasha still believed the Black Widows had already been liberated, but Yelena revealed that the Red Room was very much alive and that General Jacob himself was still in command. The revelation left Natasha stunned, for she had once helped an agent called Batman destroy the Red Room and kill its leader. As the sisters grappled with this shocking truth, the ceiling suddenly exploded, and a squad of Black Widows descended on ropes to attack. Snatching up the antidote, the two fought their way through the ambush and managed to break free, only to find the ground below already blocked. With no other choice, they sprinted to the rooftop and hurled themselves down the sloping side to escape. Clinging to a chimney, the sisters pushed themselves across to the next rooftop, but another Black Widow launched after them, only to lose her grip and plummet to the ground. Yelena was flung through a window while Natasha tumbled down, crashing through debris before hitting the street. Struggling to her feet, she tried to reach her fallen comrade, but on the other side, Jacob coldly forced the widow to take her own life. He then ordered Taskmaster to hunt down the sisters without mercy. Natasha mounted a motorcycle and sped off, while her relentless pursuer thundered behind in a heavily armored vehicle. Racing down the road, the sisters suddenly came under fire from another Black Widow, sending their motorcycle careening across the street. Scrambling back to their feet, they hijacked a passing car and sped off, but their pursuer remained close behind on a motorbike, firing relentlessly. Enraged, Yelena kicked the car door open, slamming it into the rider and knocking her to the pavement. Just then, Taskmaster's armored vehicle bore down on them, plowing through rows of cars as if they were toys. He emerged from the wreckage, drew his bow, and launched an explosive arrow beneath Natasha's car. The blast sent the vehicle rolling violently before it crashed down into the depths of a subway station. Knowing their opponent's overwhelming strength, the sisters kept running despite their wounds. He hurled his shield so it stuck to the wall, but Natasha and Yelena narrowly dodged it and escaped with their heads intact. Taskmaster followed Yelena's blood trail down to a sewer, only to be outwitted when Natasha hid her sister inside a ventilation duct. Yelena revealed that Taskmaster was Jacob's special project, a weapon engineered to copy and master an adversary's every move. Natasha, however, was haunted by the mission from years past. She had seen Jacob consumed by the blast, and his daughter's death had been a tragic accident. That night, bored and restless, the two drank a few beers and nibbled on dried squid. And with liquid courage, Natasha persuaded Yelena to join her in one last plan to tear down the Red Room and finish off the despicable Jacob once and for all. Their first step was to secure an aircraft, and with the help of a trusted friend, they obtained a helicopter. It looked worn on the outside, but one wrong move and it could easily fall apart midair. Meanwhile, on the other side, Natasha and Yelena's father, Alex, had outlived his usefulness and been thrown into prison by Jacob. Inside, he ruled as the undisputed strongman. No inmate could best him, even in an arm wrestling match. Just then, a call summoned him to collect a package, which turned out to be a red figurine resembling a guard. In truth, Alex was like a Russian knockoff of Captain America. When he wound up the toy, its head popped off to reveal a miniature earpiece hidden inside. Natasha's voice instructed him to stay quiet and head for the southern wall. Playing along, Alex rose, greeted two guards, and attempted to act casual, though his rough manner quickly gave him away. The prison wardens caught on, and chaos erupted as they rushed to hunt him down. With a single powerful kick, Alex blasted a steel door off its hinges and charged toward the southern wall. He leapt high, trying to scale it, but a jolt of electricity knocked him back to the ground. Seeing this, Natasha rappelled down to assist, her small frame belying the speed and strength of her combat skills. At the same time, their battered helicopter came under attack. Hot-tempered as ever, Yelena switched on autopilot, flung open the hatch, and fired at the guards in the watchtower. The thunderous noise triggered an avalanche from the nearby mountains, sending prisoners and wardens alike scattering in panic, fleeing inside like frightened rats. In the chaos, the sisters managed to rescue their father just before the snow buried everything in its path. Reunited after so long, Yelena's first greeting was a punch to Alex's face, for neither she nor Natasha had forgotten how he abandoned them years ago. Their next mission was to track down the location of the Red Room, but Alex, having been deceived by Jacob himself, had no knowledge to offer. Alex suggested that the sisters seek out Melina, a scientist who had long served Jacob. When their aircraft ran out of fuel, they were forced to make an emergency landing in a field where Melina happened to be testing her mind control commands on a herd of pigs. Spotting an intruder alert, she grabbed a large black rifle and prepared to fire, only to recognize Alex and the two girls. The family reunion was awkward, as years ago, her mission with Alex had been nothing more than a cover posing as parent parents to raise Natasha and Yelena, Alex tried to rekindle the warmth of those days, even squeezing himself back into his old Red Guardian suit. Though this so-called superhero would likely frighten children more than inspire them, but Melina coldly reminded them that their family life had been nothing but an act, a revelation that left the sisters deeply shaken and struggling to accept the truth. Natasha wastes no time with small talk and directly brings up the Red Room. Melina shakes her head, insisting that they have no chance against Jacob. To prove her point, she calls in a pig and orders it to stop breathing. The animal obeys instantly until it collapses to the ground. Melina goes on to affirm that Jacob not only has the power to manipulate Winter Soldiers, but also commands countless facilities, making his defeat seem nearly impossible. Faced with such pessimism, Natasha grows furious. She doesn't hesitate to call Alex a fool and brand Melina a coward. Yelena, however, clings to the memories of the past and continues to see Melina as her real mother, which drives her to retreat to her room in sorrow. Natasha, resolute, decides she will act alone. At that moment, Melina reveals a devastating truth. Natasha's birth mother had spent years searching for her daughter, only to be killed at last by Jacob's hand. She was devastated by the news, yet tried to hold back her tears. In truth, Melina had always cherished the beautiful days of the past, but she still chose to inform Jacob about the presence of everyone here, and his men arrived in no time. They fired multiple tranquilizers into Alex, leaving him powerless, while Yelena rushed down with a gun in hand, only to find her sister lying unconscious on the floor. At that moment, Melina suddenly appeared, whispered an apology. Soon after, Taskmaster entered and escorted the entire family to an airborne base, which turned out to be the infamous Red Room. Hidden high within the clouds, it remained beyond the reach of the relentless pursuit from the SEAL organization. Inside, the Black Widows were still training with unwavering discipline, while Melina made her way to Jacob's office for a private conversation. Yelena, meanwhile, was tightly restrained and being prepared for a brain surgery. On the other side, Natasha and Alex were locked away, and as he sorrowfully confided in his daughter, the door suddenly opened, revealing that Natasha's mother was none other than Melina herself. At that moment, Melina secretly called Yelena, instructing her that a knife was hidden by her right thigh. With quiet precision, Yelena drew the blade and swiftly dealt with corrupt doctors surrounding her. Though she was injected with a dose of tranquilizer, it was far from enough to overpower her. In the end, it was revealed that the entire scheme had been carefully orchestrated by Melina and Natasha. Mother and daughter had switched identities to deceive Jacob, yet he was not so easily fooled. By reading the expression on his opponent's face, he instantly recognized that it was Natasha standing before him. Taskmaster quickly drew her weapon to protect her master, but Jacob signaled that it was unnecessary, for Natasha was already under his control. Without hesitation, he revealed that he had killed Natasha's biological mother and buried her beneath an unmarked grave. A confession that filled her with fury. What was even more shocking was that his own daughter had survived the explosion from years ago. In his cruelty, Jacob had turned his child into the ultimate weapon, and that child was none other than Taskmaster. He then commanded her to eliminate Melina and Alex. Natasha immediately pulled out her gun, but it failed to fire, and even when she attempted to use a knife, she could not so much as touch him. Meanwhile, Alex, believing he too had a communication device, sorrowfully began apologizing to his daughters in the heavy silence of the room. At that very moment, Taskmaster approached, and Melina, sensing trouble ahead, left her husband to fight while she made her way to the control room to take command of the Red Room. She successfully brought the base down to the ground, preparing to hand it over to the authorities. But Jacob quickly realized what she had done and sealed the doors, trapping her inside. Meanwhile, Yelena infiltrated the laboratory, fastening the antidote to a bomb before heading straight to the training hall, where the Black Widows were gathered. As this unfolded, Natasha kept provoking Jacob, taunting him until his anger boiled over, and he struck her across the face again and again. He then smugly lifted his chin, showing her the vast intelligence network of Black Widows spread across every corner of the earth. With complete arrogance, he declared that he could topple governments at will and step out of the shadows without fear. At that moment, Natasha suddenly broke into a satisfied smile, thanking Jacob for revealing his entire plan. She then slammed her face down onto the table, severing her olfactory nerve, and with a swift motion, sent him crashing to the ground. Yet before she could press her advantage, he managed to hit the alarm, summoning the Black Widows. Meanwhile, Melina crawled through the ventilation ducts to escape, only to be surrounded by soldiers. Without hesitation, she fired at the ceiling, causing it to collapse, and swung herself upward as the troops plummeted into the whirring blades below, sealing their fate. Elsewhere, Alex was locked in fierce combat with Taskmaster, but it was clear he was no match for her. Just as she was about to deliver the fatal blow, Melina appeared and shoved Taskmaster into a glass chamber, trapping her inside. Back with Natasha, she was on the verge of defeating the vile Jacob when the Black Widow army stormed in. A lopsided battle erupted, one against dozens. Though they outnumbered her, most of them were still trainees, and Natasha was able to take them down one by one. Many quickly fell as she electrocuted them, yet the relentless fight left her battered and crawling across the floor. To make matters worse, they pinned her down and ganged up on her. Just in time, Yelena arrived and detonated the bomb infused with the antidote. The explosion spread the cure throughout the room, awakening the Black Widows from their brainwashed state. Without it, the SEAL squad would have lost one of its strongest members. Natasha urged her sisters, the very ones who had just been forced to fight her, to leave this place and live lives of their own choosing. At that moment, the turbine propellers generating lift began to explode, forcing Yelena to rally her sisters and lead them in pursuit of Jacob for revenge. Natasha, meanwhile, quickly copied all the data on Black Widows around the world, then shattered the glass window and leapt outside just before the flames could consume her, clinging to a steel ladder to swing herself downward. Jacob's base was erupting with explosions everywhere, and it was clear the entire structure would not last much longer. Circling above, Melina piloted a jet in search of her two daughters, only to be ambushed by paratroopers. Alex fought back fiercely, hurling his shield and killing one of the soldiers, but his action caused damage to the aircraft, sending it tilting wildly before spiraling into a fall. In the chaos, Natasha searched for an escape route, but suddenly plummeted downward, where she noticed Taskmaster still trapped inside the glass chamber. Choosing mercy, she freed her comrade, only for the floor beneath them to explode, sending everything crashing into the open sky. Natasha clung desperately to her weapons, fighting to keep herself from being swept away. All around them was now engulfed in smoke and fire. On the other side, Jacob was being escorted onto a plane by his guards, when Yelena, risking everything, leapt onto it. With sheer determination, she jammed her staff into the rotor, causing it to malfunction. The explosion hurled her into the open air, while the blast incinerated Jacob and his men, leaving nothing but scorched remains. Natasha quickly grabbed a parachute pack and dove after her sister. Cutting through the falling debris, she finally managed to wrap her arms around Yelena, but in that moment, she caught sight of Taskmaster pursuing them. Natasha fastened the parachute onto Yelena and then released herself into a free fall, latching onto a massive chunk of wreckage. There, suspended in the skies amidst fire and rubble, she and Taskmaster clashed in a fierce mid-air battle. Just as death seemed inevitable, Natasha deployed the parachute in time, saving them both from certain doom. The moment they hit the ground, Taskmaster charged forward with her weapon in hand. This time, Natasha did not hold back. She countered swiftly. She then smashed open a vial of the antidote, finally freeing Taskmaster from her torment. By then, Jacob's entire base had crashed to the ground in ruins. Natasha immediately rushed into the wreckage, desperately searching for her sister. After surviving the ordeal of life and death together, she broke down in tears, apologizing to Yelena. In the end, Natasha's family was finally reunited. Only after everything was over did the authorities arrive at the scene. Knowing her reputation within the SEAL squad, Natasha urged her family to leave, insisting she would stay behind to handle the aftermath. They followed her wishes, parting ways as she remained. And with that, the film came to its conclusion. Thank you for watching, goodbye, and see you again.